Okay, well, hi everyone, and welcome to the Public Practice Accountants Club, a space for leaders and emerging leaders in the accounting space to come together and connect over the unique challenges and opportunities that are faced by our industry. So, be at the forefront of transformation in the industry, make some valuable connections, and hear some great conversations. And the bonus is that you get to earn some CPD points for tuning in. So that's fabulous. So our topic this morning in our room is what's best for your firm, managing SMSFs in-house or outsourcing. That's tricky to say at this time in the morning, SMSFs. Okay, I'll probably stumble over that, I'm sure. But let me first introduce myself for those. I think I see a few new people hanging around in Clubhouse. My name is Linda Steffens. I am the accountant coach, author and speaker, and I particularly love to talk about the business of accounting, business advisory services, and leadership in public practice. They're my fave things. Now, normally I would have our co-host here, Kylie Baxter, as well, but she is off having a well-deserved break with her family, so she's not joining us today. But as you can see, I do have a couple of guests along with me as well. So good morning, Donna Bruce from Alto Advisors. How are you, Donna?
I'm well, thanks, Linda.
That's good. And Rob McCaskill from Cyber SMSF.
Morning, Linda.
Good morning. Okay, so we'll kick off. We'll get into your respective firms and how you are involved with SMSF very soon. But we'll kick off this morning with, having SMSF capabilities might not be the best fit for your firm. Or maybe it's the perfect fit. Who knows? In previous years, firms who didn't have the scale, capability, or technical know-how scrambled to become qualified as financial advisors. Firms arranged their own AFSL licenses or became authorised reps of other AFSL licenses to manage clients' SMSFs in-house. Oh my goodness, all those acronyms. But trends appear to be changing and more firms are outsourcing their SMSF management and compliance. So freeing up some valuable time and resources to pursue alternative service offerings, perhaps such as ongoing advisory. But not sure which way you should go or what is the best fit for your firm. And don't worry, it's a dilemma faced by many. So most accounting practices would have clients with self-managed super funds. That's just a reality of what we do. And ever since financial services reform came into play in the early 2000s, the effect on the accounting industry and how firms manage compliance and advice for self-managed super funds has been a bit of a minefield, to be honest. And with the so-called accountant's exemption being removed in 2016, it certainly hasn't gotten any easier. So as it stands, as you will all know, without an AFSL or as an authorised rep of one, you are limited to what you can provide or what you can talk about. So you are limited to general advice or factual advice around financial services and products, of which a self-managed super fund is one. Of course, you can talk about taxation advice, and traditional accounting activities like self-managed super fund compliance, some very broad asset allocations sort of things. And of course, you can give referrals to other professionals like financial planners. But if you want to go beyond that and want to recommend or advise clients in even establishing a fund, contributions, pensions withdrawals, investment allocations, those sorts of things, then you need to have an AFSL or be an authorised rep. So that's the tricky bit, isn't it? Because we know it's not always cut and dry, black and white, exactly what our clients need from us from time to time. And that's where I'm sure it gets difficult. So there are two areas I think we need to look at. Of course, you've got the compliance side and you've got the advice side. And whether you manage one or both, or in-house or outsource, or what that really looks like. And that's what we're going to talk about this morning. So full outsourcing of compliance. So there's a number of alternatives out there, a number of suppliers out there in the market that can offer this for self-managed super funds. And last month on our show, we talked about the inside scoop on outsourcing. You'll find that, so if you want to go back and listen to that, there's a lot of great tips in that. We had Nick Sinclair on board with us last month from TOA or TOA Global. And he gave some good tips about outsourcing. So most outsourcing providers in the industry, in the accounting industry, will be able to provide some self-managed super fund support at different and varying levels. So that's certainly out there. And then, of course, you do have some very specialist SMSF providers in the outsourcing market as well. So the one that just jumps to mind is Seamless, but there are a number of them out there as well. They've certainly been around for a long time and, you know, provide a great solution for a number of firms. You can also fully outsource advice. And what that looks like is obviously you have strategic alliances with financial planners or financial advisors. So perhaps you only stick to the general advice area and outsource the advice to the financial planners. So that's about all how your relationships work. If you've got financial planners that you trust or clients are using, that's another way of which you can obviously fully outsource advice. All right, but what I want to talk about here with our special guests, first off, Donna Bruce, good morning again. In-house compliance, that's something I know you deal with in-house. Can you tell us just a little bit about Alto Accountants so we can get a feel for the size of your firm and where you're at with that?
Yes, so we're a 2-partner firm. We have 8 accountants and 3 admins. One of those accountants is a SMSF specialist, so
it's
deals
hard
only
to say,
with
right?
particularly at this time of morning.
Yes.
He only deals with the super funds compliance work and providing advice in that area, not in the financial, not moving into the financial advice area,
so
but the compliance
advice
and the tax advice.
Yes. Okay. All right. So how long have you had that in-house, and was it as a result of the team member popping up? Because, you know, resourcing is obviously an issue in accounting that we're talking about all the time at the moment.
Yes. So since I've been working in self-managed super funds for around 15 years, and
Okay.
I started off doing the compliance myself in the firm that I was at the time. So I was the processor and the person talking to the clients. And we the whole time I've been working in that area, I've never had an AFSL. Probably we were starting out, when I was starting out was when we had that change where you had the accountant's exemption and then that got rid of. But so I've always worked in firms that had the self-managed super funds internally.
Okay.
I then moved to another firm which also had a SMSF specialist. And then when we started Alto, just under 2 years ago, we had a team member who wanted to come work with us, and he did all the SMSF. So that's sort of why we decided that, hey, we've got this resource, let's stick with it.
Yes. Okay, great. And so if circumstances change, do you think you'd consider doing something else?
Look, I think it's so hard to find staff at the moment. So touch wood, if Scott, who is our SMSF guy, decided to go off, then and we couldn't potentially find someone else who was the right fit for our firm and had those skills, then yes, we definitely look at other options. You need to have that knowledge and advice for your clients, and it's just a matter of finding the right fit with the resources that you have.
Yeah, I think that's very important, and something as I was researching a little bit about this too, that certainly sprung to mind was really what's the resourcing capabilities. What did you mention? I didn't pick up, or I might have misheard. Did you mention the number of funds that you have, Donna?
We've got just under 100 funds.
Just under 100 funds. Okay. Which is, fairly substantial. I see accounting firms range anywhere from 20 funds or, less than 20 funds right up to 500 funds, or depending on the size. And I think that, look, that's a result of, I think often the directors or the partners or those doing structuring and advice with clients, how they utilise the different entities that we have available to us, obviously for tax planning purposes and various other reasons. Would you say that's the case, Donna? Is self-managed super funds something, I suppose, starting out as a processor, you've always understood how to use that perhaps in a structuring way?
Correct. And so a lot of the funds we have probably come on board with existing funds. And obviously we don't have that FP qualification, so we're not actually allowed to recommend that people will set up a self-managed super fund. But if they come along and they're asking about it, I guess we've got the skills internally to explain how it works and what the rules are. We'll then recommend that they go off to see a financial planner. And we can act on execution if they say we want to set one up. And usually that's only in the cases where perhaps they want to buy a commercial premises. Yeah. And we say, look, buying your own commercial premises, a self-managed super fund is a great structure for that, for these reasons. And they'll say, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered getting a license or, doing all the study that's involved? And because it's not just the study, it's the ongoing maintenance of your professional development and all of that. That's, all that regulatory stuff that you do have to do. I have to, for full transparency here, I've always disliked SMSFs and in my whole career have managed to dodge them almost completely. So that's full transparency for me. So this is why I have my amazing special guest with me today. So had you ever considered doing that in your career, Donna?
Yeah. So as I said, when the accountant's exemption was getting wiped out, that was when I was just finishing my CPA qualification, and I actually did the extra course to get the RG 146 qualification, which is the first step in that process.
Yes.
And then talking to the firm I worked with at that stage, they sort of said, no, we want to focus on what we're good at. We've got good relationships with financial planners and we get a lot of referrals from financial planners.
Yes.
Let's not step on anyone's toes. So we don't want to provide that advice.
Yes.
And I sort of thought about that, and it's been that way with each of the firms that I've joined after that. It's sort of been the same thing. Let's not muddy the waters. Let's stick to what we're good at. But as you say, there is a lot of extra study and time involved, not only in the study, but the compliance side of things. So
look, it really has been a minefield. I mean, we've got enough to deal with in public practice and changing legislation in the tax side of things, and a whole lot of stuff going on. And then you add this level of compliance and all the other things that have gone with it. It has been difficult, and I've certainly seen that out there in practice, as I'm sure you have also too, Rob. So good morning, Rob, again. Rob from Cyber SMSF, which I would say you're a bit of a hybrid operation, aren't you? Because you're an accounting firm that provides self-managed super fund assistance and advice direct to individual trustees, but you also offer a bit of an outsourced solution to help accountants and advisors with their management of self-managed super funds. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So both offerings, the business started predominantly doing the business-to-business work, so supporting other accountants and other financial advisors in doing outsourcing work for them.
Yes.
But over time, we had more and more calls from individual trustees that wanted us to deal with them directly. They no longer had the need for a full-service accounting firm. They no longer had business structures.
Okay.
They'd gotten to the stage where they were now retired and all they had was their self-managed super fund.
Right. Okay, cool. And so, Rob, to give us a picture of what you're handling, number of funds, what's going on there, your team, how does that work?
Yeah, we look over just over 500 super funds this year. We're spread across, we've got 3 in the team. So myself, another senior accountant and an admin team member. And we're spread across predominantly 2 different software solutions at the moment. There's a few software solutions out there specifically for self-managed super funds. We've got probably 90% in one and 10% in the other.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And so you do, if we talk about helping advisors and accountants with what you do there, do you work directly with their clients, or how does that work?
Oh, to be honest, it's up to the accounting firm that we're dealing with. We've got, as you mentioned, we've got some accountants who've only got a dozen super funds. Our largest client at the moment's got just over 80 super funds. So it depends what they want. For some of the smaller firms, we can act and deal directly with the trustees. Although our business model is about supporting the business, so for us it's more about talking to the staff and the directors of the accounting firm and having them relay the information or maintain the relationships with the trustees.
Absolutely, and I think that's where it comes into it, Donna. I mean, you've got your employee, Scott. Is he also tasked with keeping your team up to date and abreast of, SMSF changes, legislation, what's going on in the area?
Yes, so he'll do some training sessions with the team just to let them know what changes have happened and the things, obviously not the processing side, but the rules that they need to be aware of. And he's also, I guess, available if we have clients come in to chat about other things and they say have a super fun question, we'll say, hey, let's just bring Scott in to answer that one. That's a bit trickier than we're used to. We'll bring him in to have that discussion. So it's good having someone available to answer the questions for the other team members, as you say.
Fabulous. Because and Rob, I'd say too, you've probably seen a few horror stories along the way where perhaps an accounting firm has had this in-source person and then they're not there anymore, or they've been trying to manage in-house and they've perhaps gotten a little bit out of their depth with being able to manage some things just because we've got so much else to keep up with. Have you seen some of that happen, and then obviously advice slips, or we can get into a non-compliant situation?
Oh, look, absolutely. And I think the importance in any firm is about maintaining your communication. So what we've found in the relationships we've managed to stabilise and support, having that key person, whether or not they're technically sound or not, it's not really the importance here. We're able to support them with all of the technical know-how in the self-managed super fund space. But as long as they understand their clients, as long as they're there to listen to their clients, they're there to gather the questions, we can be there to support them. We give them all the technical answers that they can then relay directly back to their client as if they'd answered the question themselves. So to avoid those horror stories, I suppose it's really about maintaining contact with your client, but also keeping an eye on what they're doing. And technology certainly allows us to keep an eye on what the clients are doing so much easier than we could 15 years ago when I started in the industry.
Yeah, goodness me, like you can catch them so much quicker now. You're not 2 years behind. And for those of you in Clubhouse, you can't see everybody's nodding in the virtual room. That's absolutely the case. So Rob, you have been around SMSF for quite some time. What's your take on how this is all played out for accountants?
Oh, look, like accounting in general, we're driven by technology. So I've loved the evolution.
Tech, right? You really love tech.
Love it, absolutely.
His face just lighted up, everybody, for those that you can't see.
I spend far too much time researching technology, but that's all right. Look, I think any technology that allows us to interact better with our clients is a fantastic thing. Technology can go too far in the wrong direction, but but transparency is really what we look for.
Yes.
The ability to see from so many various sources what a client's doing with their investments. But technology also allows us to help the client's future plan, with what they could possibly look at doing. And Donna touched before on investment types with commercial properties. I mean, that's one of a number of things we talk to clients about. And this, bearing in mind, their super is their biggest asset outside of their family home.
Yes.
And for the people that go down the path of wanting to self-manage it, they want to be able to talk about what the future looks like for them.
Exactly. And I think it's something too I've certainly seen over the years that, people can perhaps get advice in inverted commas from, not a technical advisor or someone so qualified that that's the right vehicle for them to use, as in a self-managed fund. And, I've seen plenty of times when it wasn't. So they can waltz on into your office and say, I want to do this. I want to set up a fund. You're like, why? It's an area that obviously we've been dealing with a lot. But just staying on that technical or technology bent for a second, Roy has asked, Rob, are you willing to tell us which software you actually prefer and why?
Oh, that's a tricky one.
It's like choosing between children, is it? Do I have my favourite? That's,
We started the firm just dealing with Class Super exclusively.
Yes.
We've then moved on to supporting clients that use BGL 360. Now, in full disclosure, I started 15 years ago using BGL.
Yes.
But with the advancements of technology, we had to choose a software. We got on board with Class Super nearly 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
I think you've got to make a decision in your firm. While it's good to know every software out there, you've got to really focus and know the ins and outs of one. And for us, the decision at that time was Class.
Okay.
Well, they've all moved on.
Yes, and they all change and they update. And Donna, what software are you currently using? If that's okay?
So we're Class.
Class.
In the past, I've used BGL 360 as well personally, and I think they're both good software. But as you say, one will develop something extra, and then the other will catch up. So it's a moving target, really.
Yeah. And I think you do have to be that point you just made, Rob. You don't want to try to spread your resources too thin with regard to technology either. That you've got enough with us spreading resources too thin just in this area in general. So you don't want to do it by trying to manage too many different software, and we see it, firms have, just in the general accounting area, they can be either a zero firm or an MYOB or something else, and that's the reason for it, because you can't just be across everything, particularly if you're a small firm. Okay. So Rob, when you're talking with clients, or accountants, because that's who we're talking to this morning, so obviously they come to you for a solution. They may be looking at other providers. I mentioned a couple there before that are the full outsource of compliance. You mentioned you're there to support the business. Is that the main differentiation between you and, say, another much larger outsourced provider?
Well, I'd like to think so. I'd like to think that what we look to do with all of our clients is really embed ourselves within their team.
Okay.
So even from the get-go, we ask for a champion within the office that's going to be our main conduit, our main contact, and that person inevitably becomes the main contact with the clients, but also with the team. We work with a number of accountants where it's an admin team member that is the main point of contact, and then that team member is then the conduit between us and their business services team if they've got any questions, that because there's always situations where a business entity and a self-managed super fund have connections in some way, shape or form, contributions, rent, you name it.
Always.
and it's about making sure that everything lines up. But it's also about the advice. The business services team might be talking about tax advice, and it might then spill over into the super fund world.
Yeah, entirely. Okay, so and for those of you that are out there in Clubhouse, or if you're listening to us on a live stream, we can actually see your comments and or questions. For those in Clubhouse, if you do want to ask a question, you've got the little chat bubble down on the left-hand corner of your screen. So you can pop your questions in there, or you can just raise your hand and ask to speak. We're very happy for you to pop up on stage, but we know that that's a bit confronting for most of us, so the chat bubble it is. But yeah, look, if you've got any questions, please pop them in there, and I'll try to keep an eye on that and ask our guests as we go through. But I'd like to talk about some numbers for a little bit here around profitability, what that looks like around the decision of whether you have self-managed super funds in-house or, Donna, for you, was it really about that, or is it more about servicing for the client?
I guess all of those considerations come into play.
Yes.
As a startup firm, our first year setting up, there was a lot of onboarding and setting everything up from scratch. So it's probably
in that.
been a less profitable process for the start. But
yes.
I think you find with super funds, because of that technology, and if you train the clients correctly to stick to the rules and not break any rules, then quite often
is that possible, Donna? Does that ever happen? Come on.
If you can,
I just saw the pig fly across the room.
Then they can be, I guess, from a processing perspective, they can be done very efficiently.
Yes.
Which, because there's a lot less guesswork involved than a business set of accounts where there's lots of ifs and buts, whereas self-managed super funds should be very streamlined. Obviously, going out to compliance-wise, there can be nightmares, but as a general rule, they can be quite a profitable job.
Yes.
But I guess that our decision was more about, I think, having someone internally. We like it. It makes a small firm a look from a brand perspective that you're specialised, that you have that extra skill set internally. So I guess reputational perspective, it's good to have somebody, but also having that person available to answer the questions, being able to say, hey, we're getting the business work for this client done.
Yes.
Can you do the super fund work now?
Yes.
Being able to, I guess, manage that job flow a little bit more than perhaps that you can with an external person. You might say I'm wrong, Rob, but that, I guess that all of those considerations went into play.
Yeah.
And I guess again the right person being part of the team as well was a big factor. So
of course, and when they come to you and say, I want to work for you, obviously I think almost always you're pretty much these days saying, yes, of course you may work for us.
Yes.
There's rarely a no answer in there these days. So I really think at the moment in the environment that we're around, it certainly is about servicing clients. Yes, of course, from a business perspective, you want to make that profitable. But initially there may be some investment, or I know I've had other firms, and Rob, you probably deal in this area too, where they may have only smaller number of funds, maybe it's 20 or 50. They are using some sort of solution, either like yourself or something else, but their strategy is to build on that. Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we start. Like I said, we've got some clients that start off with some smaller numbers, and the position that they're in is because of the support we provide, they can continue to grow their super fund base.
Yes.
Look, I'd say from the smaller firms that have started off with us with 6 or 8 funds, they've easily doubled that in the first 12 to 18 months, because they've had the time to talk to their clients.
Yeah.
And for a lot of accountants that I talk to these days, Linda, they're a little bit like you in that they've seen super funds in the past, but they've always run for the hills.
Yes.
Because they've
completely.
Well, they've just not had the solution.
No.
And even last week, I was talking to an accountant, one of my clients, who only just started using us 6 months ago, and they've had a number of clients with self-managed super funds that over the years they've said no to the super funds. They've kept them as business clients, they've kept them as individual clients, but they've said no to the super funds. Well, they've started to, as they're meeting these clients annually, they're starting to have those discussions again, and they're bringing the super funds back in-house. So these aren't new clients. These aren't new establishments. These are just services that they didn't feel comfortable providing before, that they're now, after working with us for a while, building up the confidence with us, they feel more confident in dealing with the clients. They still don't like the super funds.
Maybe it's always you either love or hate them. I don't know. Maybe that's the situation with super funds. For those of you out there listening, if you're dealing with super funds, do you love or hate super funds? That's what I want to know. Are you in my camp where you really quite dislike them? Or are you in the I love them in the Rob and the Donna category maybe? Maybe you're a little each way, Donna, I don't know. But yeah, I think it's about what you were talking about there before, Donna, around being able to offer that holistic service to your business clients, isn't it? Because there's nothing worse. Like, we've got so much to do in life and business and all of that. It's like, well, yes, you can come to me for this bit of your accounting and financial, needs, but I can't do that bit. That's not really what clients are looking for, would you say?
No, that's exactly right. And quite often we'll have, if you say, no, I can't look after that, go find someone else. Then that makes that changing a little bit more difficult. If you can say, hey, I can recommend someone like Rob to look after you, and you take that hassle out of it. But even we've had clients in the past or prospective clients who've said, no, I want everything under one roof. I want my financial planning under one roof. And we will say, that's it. We can say, look, we have relationships with great financial planners. We'll definitely recommend, and we'll work closely together. And most of the time clients are happy with that. But sometimes they do want that one-stop solution for absolutely everything.
Okay. And look, that's the client's choice in doing that. Rob, where do you I like the idea of accountants, they do you find it's startups that maybe can come to you too? Because often we find ourselves in situations where we're going out and we're starting a firm, or just kicking off what we're doing professionally. Got a couple of super funds, don't have the resources to manage that in-house. Have those professionals come to you and used your services?
Absolutely. Not the majority, probably the minority of our clients are startups. I tend to find that we've got more established businesses. I couldn't give you the stereotypical business that we look after, because every one of them is different.
All a bit different.
We've got a number of sole traders. We've got a lot of two partner firms. We've even got some larger firms than that we support. So there's no one size fits all, I suppose. What I do find with the startups is that they need more technical support. Generally, the startups haven't done a lot of super before. So we are geared and structured in such a way that we can support them with that. We can take them all the way through from onboarding a client, so taking them from the previous accountant and moving them onto our cloud-based technology solution. Right the way through to even helping them set up a super fund if that's what is required or needed. So we get that with the startups, but I suppose with the more established businesses, it's a different discussion. It's around resourcing, like you mentioned, Linda. It's around technology. So there's a whole lot of different requirements out there.
Okay, and Rob, for you, what would you say? The tips and or traps of perhaps trying to manage self-managed super fund compliance in-house, that a few of those horror stories that you might have seen from time to time. What should we be looking out for?
Look, I think systems always work well, and best practice solutions are by far the best way of dealing with them. Donna touched on before about educating the clients in the best way to look after their investments, the best way to look after their super funds.
Yes.
I think that's the best thing, and a lot of what we do with our clients is we bring in place a lot of systems for them in how they communicate, how frequently they communicate, what sort of things they're looking for. So I think the tips and traps is really about having a good system and sticking to it. Documenting that system is really helpful if there's going to be multiple people in the team that are going to be dealing with it.
So that consistency that everybody deals with it the same way.
Well, that's what clients want. The clients want consistency. They don't want to hear from you 3 times one year and not hear from you the next year.
Yes.
But it's also the opportunities that are there, and you touched on business advisory before, Linda, and I think that even dealing with clients in this more structured way, it helps open up so many more possibilities and opportunities with your client base because of that communication.
Yeah, absolutely. Donna, do you have anything further to add to that around tips and traps or what you've seen over your years working with self-managed super funds?
No, I think you're right, Rob. It's about systemizing and processing and making sure they understand the requirements. There's a lot of people who I think were set up back in the day because it was the cool thing to do to set up a self-managed super fund, and they probably shouldn't have been.
Yes.
And they don't know the strict rules and what they need to do to comply. So it's making sure if they're being set up, it's for the right reason, and that they understand what they need to do. So again, that education piece for the client.
Really important. And I think too, we're absolutely seeing some of those initial type arrangements being unwound, certainly in the last 3 to 5 years, because I think it was at the time really a quite reactive space, and perhaps there were some suppliers or bodies involved that, led us down one path or not. And because, there was solutions for this. And, I remember it being quite a tumultuous time in what you did with regard to trying to manage self-managed super funds. So I'm very glad we've moved on a lot from that, and we've got, some great options out there, because again, as public practice accountants, we've got so much on our plates. And I think the most important thing is to really sit down, and something that Kylie and I always talk about is to plan. Look at what you need. Look at the number of funds you've got. Look at the clients you've got. Look at the team members that you've got. And, plan for what you're going to need over the next 12 months, 2 years, 5 years, and be as proactive as you can in this space, like everything else, rather than having to, be very reactive. And if you need a solution, somebody like Rob, obviously can come in and help. It may not, I'd imagine, Rob, sometimes they start out working with you and then they may find a staff member and bring it back in-house. Have you had that happen?
We haven't, funnily enough.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's good for you.
Well, we make our service invaluable. And
look at you go. Yes.
I think when they do find that staff member, Linda, it's a matter of where they're best suited in the firm. And I'm seeing a lot of firms moving more towards the advisory service these days. Yeah. And if they're bringing in new staff to focus on compliance, they do miss opportunities. Yeah. So that's how we talk to our clients, but I won't say it won't happen in the future. I'm sure there'll be some great candidates that'll come along that'll fit in well in a team.
Okay, let's see if we can get something controversial going on here. So, Rob, is it the end of generalised SMSF advice being able to be provided in firms, do you think?
I hope not.
No, okay.
I hope not. Well, look, as accountants, we don't have best interest duty that the financial planners have. But correct. Let's face it, it's in our best interest that the clients stay with our firm.
Yes.
It's in our best interest that we support these clients, and they're going to refer us to their family and their friends. So
Yes.
we're not going to do the wrong thing by clients.
No.
If we're sitting there talking to a client, and let's face it, clients already know what they want to do with their future.
Yeah.
They come to us because they want support or they want guidance in a certain area. They don't come to us because they want the next new thing that's going to work for them. So I think a lot of the advice that we're wanting to share with these clients isn't new, fancy, or I personally don't see many in the industry trying to steer clients down a certain direction because it's in the firm's best interest. And that's where I think the opportunities are a little bit missed at the moment. How controversial is that for you?
Yeah, controversial enough. Donna, do you have anything to add to there?
I would say I'm finding that the generalist accountant is becoming, that does a little bit of self-managed super funds and does a little bit of tax advice and does a little bit of advisory, is becoming less and less. People working in that super fund space are becoming more and more specialised, and I guess that's just a matter of it becoming more and more complicated all the time as the rules constantly changing. So if a firm does have an internal super fund person, it may be that they are a specialist super fund person, as opposed to we'll do a little bit of everything. I think that seems to be becoming less and less common.
Yes, because everything's just getting more complex, isn't it? And you add technology and then the staffing and talent recruitment issues that we've got and have been struggling with for a long time. That just adds a whole nother level to things. And one other point I just wanted to make before we start to wrap up, and please, if you've got any questions out there for either Rob or Donna, of course they're both available. I'd imagine if you want to, what are the best places for people to reach out to you? Rob, what's the easiest way people could reach out to you?
Via the website, cybersmsf.com.au.
Okay, perfect. And Donna, for you, if anybody wanted to chat with you?
Same, the website, altoadvisors.com.au, or jump on LinkedIn and send a message as well.
Yeah, and look, if anybody's uncertain around that too, you can always pop on and find me on LinkedIn and message me, and I can always connect you as well. But one just point I realised that is also too about, and it's around staff retention, which we're talking about all the time. If we do have somebody interested in pursuing, becoming a self-managed super fund specialist, Donna, what would you say to that team member?
Look, if that's something they're interested in, I'd be happy to help them down that process. If they want to learn a particular area, it's always good to let them move into that area that they're interested in. So I'd be definitely happy to encourage them. And luckily enough, we have the capacity and the skills to help them to train them up. So it's a bit harder, I guess, if somebody wants to get that exposure and you don't offer that service within your firm to be able to give them that training. So,
Rob, what have you seen around? Is there any types of particular training or somebody that where people could go to get some more qualifications or information about SMSFs?
Oh, absolutely. There's a whole ton of training out there. It depends on the level that they're at. So you've got your general entry courses, so your one-on-one courses, right the way through to your specialists. So I'm an accredited specialist with the Self-Managed Super Fund Association, which is a national association that supports policy and advocacy for the SMSF space. There's a whole lot of areas out there. I think in moving forward, if you're looking to take your accounting career to the next level, you really need to specialise in a given area, be it self-managed super fund, be it CGTF, but whatever your area is. There's a real skill or a real need out there for skilled individuals in certain areas, and And like myself, people can build entire firms around that one specialty.
Yes, look at that. Great point. So I think that's exactly where we're going, because the complexity of everything is just getting more and more and more all the time. So, yeah, we're seeing a lot of specializations or niching, if you were, as business models, which is great. Great for the industry too, I think. So it just means that we've got so many more solutions for our very busy public practitioners and firm owners out there to access. So that's wonderful. Donna, in summarising, SMSFs in-house versus outsourcing, what would you say to firms?
I think it's horses for courses, to be honest. It's if you've got the capacity, it's great. I think, as I said, adds a little extra from a reputational perspective. It's profitable. But as I said, with staff shortages, it can be difficult to find that right person to be in the firm. And if you've got somebody like Rob providing an alternative service that can work just as well, then do what's right for you.
Fabulous. And Rob, from you?
Well, look, I've got to echo those comments. It really comes down to what you want to build your firm around. And if you want to go down an area of specialty, be it advisory, and you don't then have the team around you that has that compliance type approach, it really comes down to how you want to set your firm up. If you want to have everything in-house, that's fantastic. If you want to then build your business specialising in a certain area and then having strategic alliances with other businesses that specialise in other areas, then that's, it's what works well for you. But like Donna said, you've got to have that goal or that that mindset of what you want your business to look like, because whether you have SMSF accounts in-house or outsourcing, it really comes down to supporting that business goal.
Absolutely. And, for anybody, if you happen to be looking at business advisory or what that looks like, that's certainly something that I love playing in and dealing with. So reach out to me if that's something you're interested in for you or your team. But I would just reiterate both of those. Thank you so much to both of you this morning. But again, I think it's very taking that proactive approach as much as we can, taking some time to look at your business, look at your clients, look at your team and plan. Look at what you're going to need going forward. And if you have to change something and look for another solution, then do so. Make sure your team members are happy. If you are lucky enough to have that SMSF specialist in-house, I'd certainly be looking after them, so don't let them run away on you. And any staff member, that goes without saying, any staff member, I don't just mean them. And I have to admit, I was very flippant before, and I said in jest that clients can't be trained. They absolutely can be. Again, the education perspective with clients, I think, is that we need to take the time. It is up to us as the professional to take the time to educate them, and you will find 9 times out of 10 that they're very open and receptive to that if we do take the time. So I would encourage you all to invest in client education, because I think that's something they're screaming out for, and they absolutely love when we give back to them in that area. So thank you, Rob. Thank you, Donna, once again. I know it's early. We're getting up early and having to chat all things SMSFs. So thank you. I know your time is extremely valuable. So we're very appreciative that you've come in and chatted with us today. Okay, so as everybody knows, the Public Practice Accountants Club is now a monthly event. So keep an eye out on calendars and what's going on in Clubhouse, and you'll find out when Kylie and I are back to talk to you again. Okay, well, I hope everybody has a wonderful day, a great week. And of course, we've got Easter coming up. So a happy Easter or a break, however you celebrate that, or take some time away from work, whatever that looks like for you. So have a great week, everybody. Thank you again, Rob and Donna, and we'll talk to you all soon. Bye for now.
Thanks, Linda.
Thanks, Linda.